What if being accused of stealing a backpack cost you your freedom? What if it stole your childhood, your future, and eventually your life? In America, the right to a fair trial is a cornerstone of justice. But for one teenager from the Bronx, that right never came. This being a crime series, the system failed, and this is episode 6. His name was Kalief Browder. At just 16 years old, he was accused of stealing a backpack, an accusation that would trap him inside one of the country's most notorious jails for more than 1,000 days. He would never see a trial, and the cost of that injustice would be his life. Kalief Browder's story is not only about one boy. It's about a system that failed him, a system that continues to fail countless others. This is the story of how a backpack became the weight of a broken justice system, and how a young man's courage turned tragedy into a call for reform. Kalief was born on May 25, 1993, in the Bronx, New York. He was the youngest of 7 children. His biological mother struggled with addiction, and when she could no longer care for her kids, Kalief and his siblings entered foster care. Eventually, Kalief was adopted by Vanita Browder, a strong and compassionate woman who took in many children and tried to give them a chance at stability. Despite hardships, Kalief grew up polite and thoughtful. He was described as a quiet kid, often more interested in tinkering with computers than getting into trouble. But growing up in the Bronx wasn't easy. Crime, poverty, and police presence were part of everyday life. At 15, he was caught in a joyriding incident with friends and placed on probation. It was a mistake, but one that would later come back to haunt him. On May 15, 2010, Kalief's life changed forever. He and a friend were walking home from a party when police pulled them aside. A man had just reported that his backpack had been stolen. Inside it, he claimed, were valuable belongings, cash, a camera, a credit card. He pointed out Kalief and his friend as the culprits. The boys insisted they had nothing to do with it. Police searched them. No backpack was found. But it didn't matter. Because Kalief was still on probation, the accusation alone was enough to land him behind bars. His bail was set at $3,000, an impossible sum for his family to pay. And so, at just 16, Kalief Browder was shipped off to Rikers Island to await trial. Rikers Island, a jail infamous for violence, corruption, and despair. Kalief was thrust into a world far more dangerous than anything he had ever known. What was supposed to be a temporary stay while waiting for a trial turned into a nightmare lasting more than 3 years. For over 1,000 days, Kalief was locked away, and for 2 of those years, he was placed in solitary confinement, alone, in a cell no larger than a closet, for 23 hours a day. Solitary confinement has been described by experts as psychological torture. Even adults can break under its weight. But Kalief was just a boy. He missed birthdays, holidays, and the everyday joys of teenage life, all from inside a concrete box. Life at Rikers was brutal. Kalief endured frequent beatings from both inmates and correction officers. Some of these assaults were caught on security cameras, shocking glimpses into the daily violence of the jail. He was starved, threatened, humiliated. But what made Kalief's story even more devastating was his resilience. Despite the suffering, he refused to give in. Prosecutors offered him plea deals, opportunities to confess to the crime in exchange for immediate release. Many inmates take such deals, guilty or not, just to escape the misery of Rikers. But Kalief refused. He was innocent, he said, and he would not admit to something he didn't do. He wanted his day in court. He wanted justice. That trial never came. Court dates were postponed again and again over 30 times. Each delay meant Kalief remained behind bars. The man who had accused him eventually left the country, unreachable by the court. But still, Kalief was kept locked up, waiting for a trial that seemed further and further away. Finally, in May 2013, after 3 years of waiting, the case was dismissed. The prosecution admitted they had no case. Kalief walked out of Rikers a free man. But freedom didn't mean healing. Returning home at 20 years old, Kalief struggled to adjust. His teenage years were gone. Friends had moved on, life outside had changed, and he was left with scars that no one could see. He described sleepless nights, constant paranoia, and deep depression. He feared police would knock on his door at any moment. Even small noises triggered memories of solitary confinement. Despite this, Kalief tried to rebuild. He enrolled in classes, reconnected with family, and began speaking out about what had happened to him. In 2014, his story was featured in The New Yorker in a groundbreaking article by journalist Jennifer Gonnerman. Suddenly, the world knew his name.
But we didn't have anything on us, so I was thinking the next step was we're free to go, we're just gonna walk home.
A high school sophomore like millions of others in America with a love for basketball and professional wrestling. Kalief was arrested and charged with robbery.
They set my bail for $3,500. You know, my mom told me she didn't have the money, and it was true. She didn't have the money. $3,500 was a lot for my mom. On my mind was, I gotta go home. I didn't do this. Now I'm in jail around these grown men, and they're fighting each other, and I don't know. It was like hell on earth. We were beaten. We were beaten, stomped by the correction officers, hit with weapons. They tackled me in my cell where there wasn't any cameras. They grabbed me up, they put me on the bed, and they were just punching, they kicking me. And then they maced me in my eyes, they maced me in my nose and my mouth. I couldn't breathe. And every single court date, I always had it on my mind, I'm going home this court date. I'm going home this court date. The judge told me if I plead guilty, I would release from jail that same day. But I didn't do it. You're not gonna make me say I did something just so I could go home. If I gotta stay here 5 more months just to prove that I'm innocent, then so be it. It's just heartbreaking, and it's like, I felt like they were just playing with my life.
In another interview, he explained how it all began.
What happened that night?
Well, that night I had came from a party on 3rd Avenue with some friends, and I was going home, and that's when I was stopped by police officers, and they was explaining to me that there was a guy in one of their police cars that was saying that I allegedly robbed them, and they had searched me, and the guy actually said, at first he said I robbed him and I didn't have anything on me. And that's
when...
You
say nothing, you mean no weapon and none of his property?
No weapon, no money, anything he said that I allegedly robbed him for. So the guy actually changed up his story and said that I actually tried to rob him, and then another police officer came and they said that I robbed him 2 weeks prior, and then they said, we're gonna take you to the precinct, and most likely we're gonna let you go home, and then I never went home. They took me to the precinct, and I was there.
So you go to the precinct, you're photographed, you get your mugshot, you get fingerprinted.
Yes. And
they told you that you could post bail.
Yes, that's correct.
$10,000.
Yes.
And of course,
I couldn't make that. My family couldn't pay it.
So you went to Rikers Island, and did they attempt? What was the next step? Did they try to get you an attorney, public defender? What happens there?
Well, my family tried to get me a tried to get me a lawyer, but my family was doing they was going through some hard times at the time, so they couldn't post bail or either get me a lawyer. So I was handed a legal aid, a legal attorney. So after that, I had to leave my case in his hands. It wasn't the best choice, but it's the only choice I had.
Absolutely. Did you have a record going into this?
No.
So had you been arrested before at all?
No.
So you hadn't been arrested, you had no convictions then. Obviously, if you hadn't been arrested, there's no conviction. And you're in Rikers Island now, charged with, what were the formal charges against you?
Robbery in the 2nd degree.
Robbery in the 2nd degree, and no explanation is given to you. What did your attorney tell you when he saw this case?
Well, he actually told me, he just showed me the evidence that they supposedly had on me, which was the dude saying that I robbed him, his statement. And I told him I didn't do this. I don't know how I'm here. He said he's gonna work on the case, but after a while, I just kept hearing the same thing from the whole 3 years, and I just learned to cope with just being in there, and that was rough. I already knew, after a while, I just gave up hope.
3 years, it's a long time. I mean, did you find it odd? I mean, that, month after month is going by and there's no updates, there's no hearing, there's nothing. I mean, wasn't that strange? Even when you talk to other prisoners who were in there, I mean,
yes. It was weird from the first day I was in there. From the first day they put the handcuffs on me, it was weird for me. I mean, because I knew I didn't do it, and then I don't know this dude, and then I know that they're not. I felt like the police wasn't conducting their job correct. So I knew from the first day I was in there that everything was wrong. But it was hard. Knowing that for the whole 3 years was very hard. And then it came to the point when they offered me time served. And that's when it really got real stressful for me, because being in there for about 33 months, and you miss everything about being home, the fresh air, your family, certain events. You want to be home, and then when they give you an offer to go home right then and there, it's like, I want to go home, but then you know you didn't do it, so you don't want to take the plea and say that you do it is not right.
His courage to speak openly about his suffering made him a symbol of resilience and a voice against injustice. But the trauma of Rikers never truly left him. On the 6th of June, 2015, Kalief Browder took his own life. At just 22 years old, he hanged himself in his family home.
Kalief Browder is a local teen who committed suicide after spending 3 years at Rikers without ever going to trial. Well, now his heartbreaking story is the subject of a documentary from Harvey Weinstein and Jay-Z.
3 years. Browder's brother is hoping to channel that national attention into real justice reform. He talked to our Zachary Quiche about his mission to make changes to the system.
We're living off an old draconian system that really is outdated and literally has punished and victimized so many. Have the money to get out. I mean, we provided a way financially, and if you don't have that, then, well, you have to sit there. Essentially, you're being charged for being, or you're being held there for being poor. There's a lot of things that we have to work in unison with. Raising the age, the mandatory minimums, the bail situation, and the fact that we don't have a speedy trial in New York. I mean, there's a lot of bills, but these are essential, these are important, these are mandatory that people want to see change.
His mother, Vanita Browder, devastated by the loss, said she believed the system had killed her son long before that day. She would herself pass away 2 years later, her health broken by grief. Kalief's death sent shockwaves across the nation. Politicians, activists, and ordinary people saw his story as undeniable proof that America's justice system was broken. His case ignited conversations about reforming bail, limiting solitary confinement, and addressing the endless delays in the court system. New York City banned solitary confinement for 16 and 17-year-olds in 2015, directly influenced by Kalief's story. The cash bail system, which keeps countless poor defendants in jail simply because they can't afford release, came under heavy fire. Kalief Browder became more than a victim of injustice. He became a symbol of resistance, of standing firm even when the system tried to break him. But survival wasn't enough. His courage lives on, his memory fuels reform, and his story forces us to ask difficult questions. How many more Kaliefs are out there, waiting in cells for trials that may never come? Kalief's story is a tragedy and a call for change. Do you think the justice system needs reform? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.